So let me ask you something maybe a little personal. What keeps you up at night? I know, you're probably like, wow, Noemi, we just met. This is a lot. Can we not trauma bond 5 seconds in? Which is fair. But seriously, what keeps you up at night? Maybe it's replaying that thing you said at work. Maybe it's being really worried about your health, your kids, your career, your aging parents, or the rising cost of absolutely everything. Maybe it's the biggest stuff, like wondering if this is really the life you want or if there's something more that's meant for you. If you've been stuck in your head, running loops that lead absolutely nowhere, I've got you, my friend. If your brain keeps playing the same thought on repeat like a bad remix, let's break that loop together. Today, we're talking about something that hijacks our peace, our sleep, and our confidence. We're talking about overthinking. And I'm going to walk you through why it happens, what it really means, and I'll share with you 7 super easy, science-backed ways to stop the spiral and get your peace back. Ready? Let's dive in. Hey, I'm Noemi, former queen of bad habits and corporate go-getter turned well-being coach and personal growth junkie. And in a world full of overwhelming wellness advice, we're here to cut through the noise. This is your space to master healthy habits, transform your mindset, own your well-being, and design a life you love on your terms. We're ditching the highlight reels and embracing the whole messy, imperfect journey towards becoming our absolute best selves. You're the author of your own story. So are you ready to write the next chapter? Let's go, and welcome to Unwritten Potential. Hello and welcome to Unwritten Potential with me, Noemi. I am so glad that you're here. So we'll dive soon into some super practical strategies to help us get out of the overthinking loop. But first, let's talk about why overthinking happens. And here's what I want you to know first. There's nothing wrong with you. Thinking, that's obviously totally normal. But overthinking, that's your brain going into overdrive. And it's often out of fear, stress, or maybe a desire for control. Overthinking isn't a character flaw. It's not a sign that you're weak or too sensitive or that somehow there's something wrong with you. It's actually a sign that you care, that you want to get things right, that you're trying to be responsible and prepared for yourself, your family, and your career. The problem is your brain is using a really outdated strategy to help you. So your brain's main job is to keep you safe. Unfortunately, it's not to keep us happy, it's to keep us safe. And it's been doing this job for a really long time, thousands of years. Back when our biggest worry is that shadow a rock or a lion. And this constant scanning and planning was actually super helpful. But your brain hasn't gotten the memo that we're not dodging lions anymore. Now we're dodging awkward conversations and difficult emails and the fear of making the wrong choice about literally everything in our lives for ourselves and our loved ones. But here's the problem. Your lizard brain can't tell the difference between the tiger and a difficult conversation with your boss. Both feel like threats. So the brain does what it's always done. It starts problem solving, scenario planning, and worst case scenario thinking. So when you're lying there at 1, 2 a.m. thinking about the work presentation or whatever you're overthinking about, your brain thinks it's solving a life or death problem. It doesn't know the difference. It's trying to think through every possible scenario because it believes that if it can figure out the perfect plan, you will be safe. But here's the thing, and this is wild to me. Every time you overthink and nothing terrible happens, your brain is like, see, the overthinking worked. We stayed safe. So it reinforces the overthinking pattern. Overthinking is often rooted in past experiences where you felt maybe you were unprepared or blindsided by a situation. It's rooted in perfectionism. That one hits hard for me, trying to find the right answer all the time to avoid making a mistake. It can be rooted in low tolerance for uncertainties, where your brain would rather have a bad plan than no plan at all. And also, sometimes it's rooted in anxiety, telling you every decision is super high stakes and absolutely irreversible. But here's the thing, overthinking isn't problem solving, it's problem multiplying. Instead of one worry, now you have 10. Instead of clarity, now you have confusion. Instead of peace, now you have your mind spinning around and around and around. Your brain means well. It's just using caveman logic for modern people problems. It gets stuck in loops, it amplifies your fears, and it makes you feel like you're doing all the things but getting nowhere. And that's exhausting. And the irony is often we try to fix overthinking by thinking more. We try to find the perfect answer, solve everything in one sitting, and play out every possible scenario. And that just fuels the cycle. Overthinking happens when your fast, reactive brain hijacks your slow, rational brain. The trick is creating space between these two. Overthinking isn't a flaw, overthinking is a habit. And the good news, habits can be unlearned. So now that we understand what's happening, let's get to the fun part. Today, I'm giving you 7 simple science-backed tools to help you break the loop. And you don't need to use them all at once. Pick 1 or 2 and maybe have fun with it. Start experimenting and just see what works for you. Let's break it down. Here are 7 science-backed tools you can use when your brain will not shut up. For each one, I'll explain what it is, why it works, and how to actually use it in your real life. And the first one of my favorites, name it to tame it. Label it. This is about calling out the spiral when it starts. And you literally name what your brain is doing. Spiraling in a fear loop, catastrophizing, right? There's neuroscience behind it. So labeling an emotion or a thought pattern reduces activity in your amygdala. So that's your brain's panic button. And it activates your prefrontal cortex, which is the rational decision-making part. So how can you use it? When you find yourself in a overthinking spiral, name what you're experiencing, whether it's your thoughts, whether it's an emotion, just name it out loud if possible, or even in your head. So if you're lying in bed thinking, okay, what if I totally screw up this presentation tomorrow? Instead of going deeper and deeper and deeper in the overthinking spiral, just pause and say, okay, I'm feeling anxious right now. It might be anxiety talking. And by recognizing the thought pattern or emotion and labeling it, you're creating distance. You go from being the thought or the emotion to noticing the thought or the emotion. And that can really shift everything. Our tool number 2 is shrink the decision. So this tool helps you when you're overwhelmed by choice. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by all of the choices you could make, zoom in and ask, what is the next tiniest step I can take? And why does this work? Overthinking thrives on complexity, but action interrupts the loop. This is called behavioral activation. It gets you out of analysis paralysis and into motion. So how you can use that, instead of trying to plan your entire fitness routine for the next 3 months, ask what's one thing that I can do in the next 10 minutes. That might be putting on your trainers or filling your water bottle. Instead of having your whole kids' education plan for the next 20 years, what is the immediate, tiniest next step that you could take? That's a win, because clarity comes from doing, not overanalyzing. If you're overthinking your whole life, your whole raison d'être, stop and ask yourself, what is the next tiniest action I could take? Tool number 3, and that might actually be one of my favorites, schedule your worry. I know it sounds weird, but I was chatting with a friend over the weekend and we talked about this. You can literally book worry time in your calendar. Have a recurring calendar invite to yourself, 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, to let your brain run wild on purpose. And why does this work? Cognitive behavioral therapy uses this a lot actually to help people break the cycle of constant rumination. So when you give your brain a designated outlet, it stops treating every intrusive thought like an emergency, right? How you can use this, you open your calendar, you add worry time at 6:30 every evening or whenever, and that is your scheduled time with yourself to worry. And so when anxious thoughts pop up at 11 a.m., you're like, hey, no, sorry, we have to save this for later. We have our scheduled worry time session later, and really stick to it. The bonus, if you struggle to fall asleep because you have racing thoughts, try doing worry time like an hour or two before bed. Get it all out before your head hits the pillow, and it can really help with dumping it all down before you actually try to fall asleep. Tool number 4 is a trick called what if, then what? So what is it? This is a way to challenge fear-based thinking by playing the worry all the way out. So instead of stopping at what if I fail, you ask, then what? Every time you have a what if question, then what? And why it works, when we avoid the scary thought, it feels so huge and so powerful. But when we face it, even if it's just in our minds, it shrinks, it loses its power. That's a technique from CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and helps you expose distorted thinking so it loses its grip. So how you can use this, you're thinking, I have this massive proposal in a couple of months. What if it flops? What if we don't win the project? Then what? I'll feel embarrassed. Okay, then what? I'll learn what didn't work. Okay, then what? I'll try again. Maybe smarter this time, right? It's a useful tool to try to reframe and trying to play the worry all the way out so you don't allow it to become this huge thing. It's like dragging the monster out from under the bed and flipping the light on. Most of the time, the monster was just a pile of clothes that you didn't fold in. Tool number 5, move your body. This one's simple. Shift your physical state to interrupt the mental spiral. Stress and anxiety live in your nervous system, not just in your head. Physical movement, that signals safety to the body. It literally helps you complete the stress cycle. I've done a podcast on Don't Believe Everything That You Think. I'll link it in the show notes. You can go and check it out. I talk about this in a bit more detail. So how to do this? When you feel that your thoughts start racing, don't sit and stew and ruminate. Stand up, go for a walk, do 5 squats on the spot, stretch, dance, breathe. Whatever gets energy moving, it really helps reset your system. Tool number 6, change the soundtrack. So that's where you notice the negative thoughts that you've been playing on repeat and visualize yourself pressing next. Consciously choose to replace it. Why does this work? John Acuff calls this retire, replace, and repeat. You're not forcing kind of this toxic fake positivity, but you're rewiring a mental habit through repetition and belief. So I love this quote from his book. Your thoughts are the soundtrack of your life. The goal, rewrite the track. Your brain's lazy. It defaults to whatever soundtrack you've been played most often. Not because it's true, but because it's familiar. That's why repetition matters. So how you can use this, let's say your brain keeps telling you, I'm not good enough. That's the old track, my friend. Retire it. We're pressing next. Replace it with, I'm still learning, and that's okay. Then repeat it out loud, in writing, on a post-it, in your head, whatever works for you. It takes time, it takes repetition, but this is how you teach your brain a new default soundtrack, hopefully a much nicer one. Our final tool, number 7, come back to your senses. This is a grounding technique to bring you out of your mind and into the present moment using your 5 senses. Overthinking pulls you either into imaginary future disasters, or it makes you kind of ruminate on things that have already happened, things in the past. And grounding brings your nervous system back into the now, where you actually have control. You can't control the future, you can't control the past, but you definitely have control over the now. So the next time your thoughts feel really loud, take a breath and using your 5 senses, run through this. 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Maybe the taste one is tricky. But anyway, it sounds simple, but it's really powerful. It reconnects you with your body and it reconnects you with the present moment. And that's where peace lives, my friend. All right, we just walked through 7 tools. You don't need to do them all at once. Pick 1 or 2 and try it this week. The next time you find yourself overthinking, try it. Notice what changes. Because I really want you to remember this. Overthinking is a habit, and with the right tools, you can unlearn it. So, what did we just learn? Overthinking isn't a personality defect. It's a loop your brain gets stuck in when it's trying to protect you. But you're not powerless. You have tools. And every time you practice one of them, that helps rewire your brain. So let me leave you with a few powerful reflexive questions. What soundtrack have you been playing on repeat lately? What's one tiny action you can take today that would quiet the mental noise? And how would it feel to give yourself permission to pause instead of push? Take a breath. You don't have to think your way through everything. Sometimes you just need to feel your way back into the present moment. If this episode helped you, please share it with someone whose brain also won't shut up. You know the one. And if you want a free printable with all of these tools, I made you an Overthinker's Toolkit. Quick, science-backed strategies you can keep on hand when the thought spiral begins. The link is in the show notes. And if you're enjoying the show, subscribe and please message me at noemi@unwritten.coach. That's Noemie @unwritten.coach. I've been starting to get some emails, which I absolutely love. I love hearing what resonates, what doesn't, and how I could make this more useful for you. So please message me. Don't hesitate. Don't be shy. Until next week. Bye.